Thank you to the supporters over on Patreon. Across the globe, and especially in the United States, we've always had this celebrity-obsessed culture. Be it affluential figures, Hollywood bombshells, peak athletes, or even the scandals and accomplishments of our political figures. Nothing has changed in that regard over the years. We love to metaphorically look up at the stars. However, there is a new sort of star shining in the sky. Influencers, content creators, streamers, and social media stars. These are nearly inescapable terms in our modern day world. 20 years ago, if you mentioned the word influencer, no one would have a clue what you were talking about. It seems like the easiest way to get your 15 seconds of fame is through the internet, with various leagues of the limelight. Some on par with the Hall of Famers, and some others just riding their own waves. Now that we've had some time to see this new archetype of web-based celebrities emerge and run its course, have we ever stopped to think about what it means to be internet famous?
Is anybody even paying attention to me?
The best way to find some meaning to internet fame is to start from the beginning. Julia Allison. That name may have triggered a Vietnam 1,000-yard stare from some of you, but for the majority of you, you probably have no clue who this woman is. So let's get to know her. Julia is pretty widely regarded as being what many would consider the first social media influencer. After sharing on a dating column her ongoing relationship with Congressman Harold Ford Jr. in 2002, and while Ford Jr.'s name wasn't mentioned in the article, it was enough to get dug up by the Washington Post, which kind of stirred up a bit of local buzz and scandal for her to coast off of. Julia really seemed to want to retain this time in the limelight, opting to move to New York, and while columnist jobs within major magazines seemed to be falling through left and right for her, she would eventually achieve a small writing gig in a local paper, still trying to get roles on TV with an occasional appearance here and there on a talk show. Something else was rearing its head though that would propel Julia into online fandom, and that was online blogging. Julia started her own blog, posting pictures of her outfits, celebrity gossip, her dating life, all the catty, attention-grabbing things that you would see in a woman's printed magazine, but this time with an appeal to a much more tech-savvy millennial crowd. She'd self-reportedly see some decent success in this, however, without the help of Gawker, her whole identity likely would have fizzled out. Gawker was a pretty popular New York-based celebrity gossip/entertainment website. It's here Julia would really branch out into what we think of as an influencer. And the people of Gawker hated her for it. She'd rampantly self-post her articles on the site as well as across the web, trying to get as many eyes on her blog as possible. A very clout-chasing behavior, but ultimately not an uncommon practice today. It really became the buzz around these web blogs to hate this woman, gaining infamy that just couldn't be ignored. The hate reached its glass-ceiling peak in a 2006 Halloween party hosted by Gawker's founder, Nick Denton, where Julia would arrive in a condom dress, prompting Nick to realize he has quite the character on his hand and she would be great content for the site. After this, a very lengthy article was written titled "Field Guide to Julia Alyssa," mocking the fame-driven woman and airing her antics out to the wider web, really adding fuel to the already growing fire of the hate watchers. This feud with Julia and the internet would continue on for several years, eventually moving from her online blog to the newly established Tumblr. Julia would do something tone-deaf and cringe, the internet would get mad at her, prompting more people to join the dog pile, further increasing her reach. This is something that is incredibly unique to online fame, something not typically seen in celebrities from other forms of media. This fame through infamy. Julia wasn't particularly talented in any regard, certainly not any regard that someone 20 years prior to the internet would get famous for. Most people who'd seen her thought she was disingenuous and stale and inauthentic in almost every aspect. I'm sure she had a micro-following of true fans, but for the mass majority of the people aware of her, they despised her. And yet, all that did was fuel her fame even more. Yes, infamous people in history have existed prior to the internet. People who have done truly villainous actions do get a bit of a celebrity level obsession, even if it's just in hate watching. My point is, most celebrities acquired their fame through some sort of talent or charisma prior to the internet. The internet opened a gateway for people to gain infamy solely for just being annoying and inauthentic rather than truly awful people. Ironic that one of the first web stars was an example of this type of notoriety. On the other side of the spectrum, there was another voice being given the limelight right around the same time that Julia got her Gawker article.
Single every single day, do it every single way, make the single lady say, oh, and if I were gay.
2006, a year after YouTube had officially launched to the world, a 16-year-old musical comedian would upload a video that would alter the course of their life. This was Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham's relevancy today is probably larger than it's ever been after releasing a truly bitter and biting reflection of his life and the world around him in his 2021 Pandemic Force special, Inside. Inside really hit a new wave of internet fame, people who'd never heard of him before becoming fans of him, and his very accurate display of how America had felt during the lockdown through a very grim and funny perspective. Don't let it be understated though, Bo was always internet famous.
He's here to play his world premiere of his new song, Welcome to YouTube. Come on everybody, make some noise for Bo Burnham!
Even from his more youthful days posting on YouTube to becoming a full-blown act filling theater seats, Bo had an authentic, artistic air to him. He was charismatic, sharp-witted, could make you laugh, could make you feel something. Although getting recognition around the same time as Julia Lissa, his fame was truly built from an area of admiration. Burnham is a case study on how early internet fame would shape a young artist in a newly digital age. With his start online being 17 years removed from today, we get a pretty good picture of how Burnham feels about it today, stating this.
You know, and for someone like me, I grew up a little bit on the internet, and I felt the repercussions of it. I suffer from anxiety. So I know where it leads, and I'm saying, like, you don't want this, trust me, like, you're not gonna feel good about yourself.
That clip is taken from a 50-minute panel Bo spoke on for the Child Mind Institute regarding his movie 8th Grade. It's a really interesting perspective on the effects of the internet on a generation. You can tell it's something that he spent a lot of time dwelling on. Bo has been speaking out most of his adult life about the damages internet fame has caused to him and the damages it'll continue to cause on a younger demographic. It's been trickled throughout all of his songs, but really hit its peak by Inside. Welcome to the internet, this jovial, almost menacing carnival act of a song, really displays the horror, the entertainment, and the grim addictive designs of the internet. Art is dead. Bo's feelings on being an artist truly brought to life from simply wanting attention and feeling like all this money he's getting isn't deserved, but is simply how the machine of entertainment runs. In dealing with these conflicting feelings of these two thoughts, with lines like, "To think that I'm worthy of all this attention, of all of this money you worked really hard for. I slept in late while you worked at the drugstore. My drug's attention. I am an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit." Welcome to YouTube, a tongue-in-cheek reflection on YouTube's states in 2009, with a pretty biting statement along the lines of,
It's YouTube, it's what this country's been needing, a generation of kids who don't waste their time reading.
"Look who's inside again," a very literal reflection of Bo Burnham's life during both lockdown and his rise to fame, finding the irony in performing comedy from his home, behind a camera, once again.
When you're a kid and you're stuck in your room.
I've neglected to mention probably my favorite special of his, Make Happy, the title itself being a metaphor for the deeply rooted meaning behind the whole project. Throughout the whole show, he's much more callous than previous performances, attacking the audience at every chance he gets.
Did you not think I was gonna use it, idiots? It's not a problem.
Trying to drill in this point about celebrity worship culture while actively participating in it. Those conflicting feelings from Art is Dead are brought to the forefront in almost every aspect while still putting on an entertaining show, sandwiching real genuine feelings in between jokes because, well, that's his whole job as a comedian and what these people are here for, i.e. Bo's whole purpose isn't to be sincere and cynical, but instead is to make happy. Even calling this hypocrisy out in himself.
Do not stick with me through thick. If I stop entertaining you, throw me to the curb. You wouldn't stick with your mechanic if you stopped fixing your car.
Keeping up with his give and take aspect of entertaining throughout the whole show, right until the very end where we have a song that is front-loaded with jokes about Pringles cans and Chipotle burritos, but quickly devolves by the last half into Bo's genuine feelings about the audience. Burnham's reflection as an artist stands on the weighing scale of wanting the attention and making something people enjoy, but still remaining true to himself, something that's getting increasingly harder to do as he advances as a performer, and grapples with some not so lighthearted themes that he wants to cover. He says it himself in the earlier half of the show.
You know, and I feel like I was born in 1990 and I was sort of raised in America when it was a cult of self-expression, and I was just taught, you know, express myself and have things to say, and everyone will care about them. And I think everyone was taught that, and most of us found out no one gives a shit what we think. So we flock to performers by the thousands because we're the few that have found an audience, and then I'm supposed to get up here and say, follow your dreams, as if this is a meritocracy. It is not, okay? I had a privileged life, and I got lucky, and I'm unhappy.
He's deeply unhappy creating this form of art anymore, being basically chainlocked to it from the times he was in his bedroom as a teen. He recognizes, however, in this finale, how deeply rooted performing is in him, knowing once again, the only reason they're even there for him is to make happy. And while Can't Handle This is truly the tipping point in the theater to Bo's conflicting feelings in this special, it isn't the end. As Bo walks off stage, we're transported to the room inside would later take place in, for one final song. Bo comments how,
"Oh good, it's just us."
Kind of a familiar space, just the audience through the screen. He can finally be alone and perform the way he wants to perform. We then get one of his most touching songs, a post-show questionnaire. Taking the mask off. No more need to sandwich jokes between being real. Just a genuine song about his unhappiness and how he doesn't even know how to reach a point of happiness. Finally deciding at the end of it to go outside and quit comedy. Bo Burnham started as just a teen in his bedroom, doing anything he could to cure his boredom and quench an instinctual need to perform. An instinct he largely contributes to growing up in the age of social media. The success he'd received from such a young age didn't age with him. The audience didn't age with him, but instead wanted this kid to be forever stuck doing the same shtick he'd always done. He wasn't that kid anymore. He wanted to expand, but he also wasn't this corporate spit-out celebrity who'd say these inspirational quotes about being so blessed to be in this position when he didn't feel all that blessed, but instead deeply anxious about everything he was trying to do, eventually growing to resent it.
I know very little about anything, but what I do know is that if you can live your life without an audience, you should do it.
A touching sentiment for sure, but it has a much darker undertone. Knowing he personally couldn't live without an audience. He was molded by the internet machine, and he simply needs to perform. Regardless of quitting and taking a step back into the world, he would simply end up back inside. I think Bo Burnham was right when he said a whole generation was cultivated to think if we simply express ourselves that someone will care. And how social media gave this exact generation a platform to endlessly perform to each other on. Because at the end of the day, it was always YouTube broadcast yourself and not YouTube make buckets of money and become a celebrity. For as long as I can remember, I've had this innate need to create things, to perform this grandiose idea that if I express myself, someone will care about my opinion. I'd make Lego stop motions as a child and do these animations in Paint with Windows Movie Maker set to sound files I had in my Gary's Mod folder. I would film fight scenes on the playground equipment with my friends to then post on YouTube. And this just never really ended from childhood. Even into my teens, I would make these funny videos for Instagram and be rewarded for it by my friends with likes. I'd made arguably terrible music and arguably even worse content across countless channels on YouTube, all hoping to get something out of it. Attention, fame, money. I didn't know at the time, I just knew that I liked creating. Flash forward to the last 2 years, and I had somebody fairly close to me pass away, and I was pretty lost and pretty depressed. I made this channel, which was probably my 10th attempt at doing something on this platform. I made several videos that weren't that good, but I got to a point that I was enjoying what I was doing again, and I really felt like I was filling this void I had in me. And lo and behold, one random video that I posted as a Halloween special that I don't think is very good now blew up, like remarkably blew up. Following up with a video that I'm still extremely proud of to this day, a touching piece between me and my friend and this game we played as children. I continued on this path of just making stuff I wanted to with very diminishing returns. But this air of attention and this drawing of an audience was really hard to ignore by this point. For the first time in my life, instead of screaming into the void, I had people here, people watching and people commenting. And I felt that slipping away as I tried to make stuff that I felt like making. So I didn't anymore. I pivoted entirely into horror. Which, not to say the horror content on my channel wasn't genuine. I love horror and I do love the topics that I discussed. And I got rewarded for it as well, but I was certainly wearing a mask for entertainment purposes. I had gotten a purpose to serve horror content from an audience, but I just had this gnawing feeling inside of me. So much anxiety about making sure I was doing the right thing, covering the right content at the right time, appealing to the trends even if they didn't appeal to me. And I ultimately got incredibly stressed about it all of the time over something I used to enjoy doing. I'd felt like my whole life I was striving for exactly what I had right in that moment. Attention, notoriety, making money, doing something creative. Like I'd been molded to achieve this goal, and yet I was miserable because of it. And that's exactly why I love Bo Burnham. Burnham's post-intermission song, To Inside, really helped me through a tough time, as corny as that sounds. The year following my first video to ever get attention, I became ungodly obsessed with the audience. My YouTube Studio app became my social media, replying to comments, reading everything, good and bad. It shaped my days, this thought of appeasing an audience. Bo Burnham's Don't Wanna Know encapsulated this feeling I'd had for a while now. I'd been trying for months to keep up the momentum, the fear of losing an audience, the fear of being gifted something millions of people would kill for. I finally just said I don't want to know. The post-intermission song being one of the only 2 songs that Bo sings solely in front of the camera, with no effects and no theatrics. The other being the formerly mentioned reflection on his youth, Look Who's Inside Again. It's almost a check-in, an anxiety-driven reflection of himself. Inside being off Bo Burnham's 4-year hiatus from live performing, being forced to make a special indoors, similar to a film, something he's been gifted in a way by the lack of an audience. It's a feeling I felt working through a project. The anxiety of something I'm creating and how it will be perceived. What is the flow of the video?
Too fast, too slow.
Burnham doesn't have any physical feedback, lacking a live audience. Burnham's shrug-offish nature of caring about what the grander audience is thinking, but yet he's still asking the questions, especially after taking this drastic leap into a different projection of his career, a more grim, authentic presentation of his character, and there's no immediate feedback. It's the gift of the digital world, and people consuming his content through a screen. The response only comes once it's finished. He asks these questions because it's what he in himself is worried about. That conflict he's struggled with since art is dead. Being genuine, but still producing entertaining content. He's worried, he wants the feedback, he wants to perform well, but at the same time, he doesn't want the audience pressuring him to not make what he wants, ultimately opting for him to just rather not care about what they think anyways.
I'm asking but don't answer cause I don't wanna know.
And that's the conclusion I came to as well. While I'll always have this inherent craving for attention, I was practically raised by the internet and had Silicon Valley executives decide that this would be my character flaw from birth. I've always cared more about performing and entertaining and making art I feel true to myself for making. So whether it's 1 viewer or 1 billion viewers, I'm going to always have these conflicting feelings of chasing an audience, wanting to know what they think about the content.
Do I have your attention? Yes or no?
But inevitably knowing I do this regardless of if they were there or not. So I'm better off just making what is true to me and feigning not wanting to know.
It wouldn't make a difference still, I don't wanna know.
The expectation of eventually growing out of this attention-seeking phase of your life, but always truly knowing
I thought it'd be over by now, but I got a while to go.
I feel as though a lot of people will never come to this realization.
I'd give away the ending, but you
Now that I've actively spilled my guts to you all and exposed probably my largest character flaw as a creator, I'm going to immediately ignore all of that and bash on my own generation to deflect the attention onto everyone else as well.
You asked me what I wanted to be, and now I think the answer is plain to see. I wanna be famous.
Gen Z is by and large the first generation to fully grow up in the digital space, with the earliest example of Zoomers growing up around the same time as their millennial siblings, experiencing the first waves of the social media boom in their childhoods to experiencing their later teens fully engulfed into the addictive rot social media has morphed into, to the youngest of Zoomers having been born around the launch of the iPad, growing up when the idea of influencers and making money as a content creator was starting to shape into a reality. Gen Z was truly the first generation to experience this web fame phenomena at their most impressionable stages of development. With social media companies having a never stop growing mentality, Zoomers were the perfect market to appeal to. A whole generation of children primed to make every aspect of their lives watchable, a picture they take likable, every friend they have exploitable, all to feed this infinite growth machine. It's not a secret that social media companies have hijacked our brains to crave and get satisfaction out of using their sites, but Gen Z definitely was the guinea pigs for all of this. We were primed for the job before some of us were even born. And you know, maybe that wasn't such a great thing. A whole generation with self-esteem issues from being exploited online, with a need to be heard and project out into the world. Given the opportunity to do this through more online exploitation. Now with the dangling keys saying you could be famous for doing this. You could amass wealth if you do it right. Look at those around you doing it. You could be like them. What would you do to be like them? We have people getting famous for making genuine art, being funny, dancing on an app a few times a day, being horrible people, being public nuisances, having a viral moment, and everything that comes within trying to maintain that 15 seconds of fame. We also have people famous for whatever it is that Kabi Lane does. I don't even know how this guy is this famous. I see him everywhere. And all I know is he'd make fun of 5-minute craft videos by solving the problem and then lifting his hands up. How did he get to this level of fame? It's pretty safe to say Gen Z is unnecessarily obsessed with the web, as well as the fame that comes with it. Nothing on the internet exemplifies this as well as FishTank does for me. Jet Neptune and Sam Hyde have created what might be the internet's worst, best show. Regardless of what you think of the pair, FishTank is such a reflection on the state of a clout-chasing generation. FishTank is a 24/7 live experience for 6 weeks. Contestants are locked in in a house that's monitored live every hour of the day. Rules are simple: stay inside, no weed. Viewers can choose between multiple cameras, send their favorite contestants gifts, text-to-speech messages, and chat with each other. It's like Big Brother, but live, is how I describe it if it was anything like Big Brother. FishTank is a unique thing. Sure, you can tell your favorite contestant how much you love them, but you could also just harass the ones that you dislike. Spam loud noises while they're trying to sleep, and just generally make the experience that much worse for them. And that's just what I can do from the comfort of my home with my credit card. The rest of the show is full of challenges, gaslighting, bringing in people to harass the contestants, and just making these 6 weeks the most uncomfortable experiences of their life. Willing contestants most of the time, going through the most gruesome onslaught of the senses for the chance to be in front of thousands of eyes, good or bad, and some cash at the end of all of it. Each of these people are exactly the kinds of people who have been craving this attention their entire lives. It's the answer to the dangling keys. What would you do to be like them? And the answer for a lot of people is anything. FishTank is that exact anything. Stay locked in a room for days with a bunch of shirtless fat dudes, room filled with mud, and a goat, eating an insane amount of hot dogs to the point of vomiting. Just try to live in this disgusting house, and if you try to clean it, we're just gonna trash it again. The contestants are put through physical stress, mental exhaustion, gaslighting, beration from the audience, and the audience loves it. It's incredibly entertaining stuff, and it does have a human edge to it at times. Seeing mostly socially awkward people who've spent too much time online going through this twisted reality show where you're part of the experience as a viewer is an amazing idea. Spending 6 weeks seeing how they act, how they interact, they talk, their quirks, their quips. By the end, plenty of audience members have a favorite. It was only a matter of time until something like this was made and absolutely succeeded. Season 2 saw the chance to book increments of 5-hour slots for $5,000 to stay in the FishTank house while it was live. Nammy Mommy, as her social handle would refer to her as, or Jackie as the show says, was a OF model who paid $25,000 to be on the show for one night and left with 4 hours remaining on the clock. Just to put that into context, the winner of season 2 won $50,000. Why would somebody with $25,000 and a following burn that money away at the chance to be on FishTank? Well, I don't actually know the answer to that, and I could come up with a few reasons why she'd want to go through all this. The audience of Sam Hyde and Jet Neptune aren't likely to be the most socially adapted creatures. I mean, spend some time in the chat, and it's pretty easy to see that a good majority of these people are a little off. It makes sense, it's a pretty sadistic show with quite the time commitment, so it's possible that Jackie just saw this as an easy way to guide some more traffic to her fan site from the people likely consuming the most of this style of content. However, I'd like to argue a secondary point. FishTank by this point has birthed some of its own little micro celebrities. It might not be a bad way to get yourself out of the cycle of creation you found yourself in. Perhaps making loads of money solely off your appearance, and the only fans you have commenting are people shallowly admiring your body online. Maybe it isn't the influencer career you'd hoped for, and although you've tried to branch out from that content, you've never really gotten any further than that. Thus, an audience of fresh faces seeing how you react to chaos could lump you into a promising kick career, making mentally ill people jump into lakes. I don't know, it's just a thought. I have no idea why anyone would actively pay to be on this show, unless you're just a die-hard MDE fan, which maybe that's all it was. Regardless, FishTank really shows what lengths the right Zoomers will go just to get some attention. Clout seems to be the word thrown around a lot, and in our modern day, it seems like it's just a replacement for the words fame and infamy. Going back to Julia Lissa, here's a girl who got famous for making bad content, getting caught up in a scandal, hovering around others who were more famous, and promoting herself religiously. To today, where this is almost a recipe for success. Those hate watchers still bring in the AdSense dollars as much as the genuine fans. The outrage you receive just gets more eyes upon you, opening the door to even more fans. And if Gen Z really wanted to be influencers their entire lives, and this is what they made of it, What could you imagine Gen Alpha is going to do consuming this type of media? When the balance of fame and infamy is just boiled down to having clout regardless of if people actually like you or if you even like what you're making. You're just one coattail ride from getting some clout. You're just one major news scandal away from getting clout, getting the money, the company, the fame that comes with being an online influencer. How far are you willing to go? Have you ever tried to make something? No, this is a serious question for you all. Have you ever tried to make films, make music, make art with the end result of publishing it online? Tried streaming, made a podcast, or uploaded a funny video you made to one of the countless social media sites? I'm assuming there is a resounding yes across the board. At some point in all of our lives, we've shared something online that we created, either art, music, a funny tweet, a picture of our families, or even just left a comment online with some desire that another person would see it. But why? Really dig deep inside and think about why you would want to do that. Did you enjoy making it? Is it your life's goal? Is it relaxing, therapeutic even? Is it just a relief to a never-ending desire to create? Or is it an innate need to seek attention? Perhaps validation in your thoughts or your feelings? Maybe it'd be an easy, streamlined way for you to make money. The longing for someone to share your work with. It could be all the above. It could be none of the above. Could be factors I didn't mention. Or it could be a mixture of all of them. There's no right answer to the question. Sometimes I like to scroll through the YouTubers subreddit. A subreddit for the majority is people trying to navigate through starting a YouTube channel. Sometimes it's stories of success. Other times it's questions, rants, etc. It's interesting to read others' perspectives on this whole content creation machine. Some people are here solely for the intent of min-maxing their content to get the most traffic as possible, doing it with the goal of money and attention. Some people are just making things and going through the motions of getting a handful of views. Some people are looking for guidance, while others are offering help. There is a pretty clear through line though. A majority of all these people want more attention, whether they feel it's deserved to them or they're trying to figure out what they can do better to earn it. A phrase I always see brought up in these sort of advice sections for content creators is, if you make good content, people will watch it. But what's good content? Yes, there is a baseline level of content I'd say is good. People likely aren't going to watch your uncoordinated rant filmed with a Chromebook webcam. But aside from production value, what's considered good content? There's not an answer. There isn't any comparison you could draw from, say, a Mr. Beast video to a Binging with Babish video. They're in two different leagues of their own. A Moist Critical video to a Defunctland video. I think you get the point. Telling people desperately clamoring for fame to just make good content? How do you even determine what's good content? Well, you could try to build an audience in a niche, make content around that genre, blah, 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 blah. There'll never be an answer to that question, because good content should probably just be how you feel about it. If you don't enjoy what you're making, it is very unlikely the attention you get from it is gonna change that. I think it's really a grass is always greener on the other side mentality with some of these people. A lot of garnering attention online really is just getting lucky. So when I asked you if you've ever made anything before, if you take anything away from this video, really level with yourself as to why you're making what you're making. You might just come across the answer on how to make good content. I just have one final point I want to talk about before I give you back to the algorithm, and that's audience expectation. Did I give you everything you wanted in this video? Did I deliver on the promises I claimed? If you chose to stick around and subscribe, do you expect me to touch on social issues you care about? Do you expect me to read every comment you make on the channel? Gear my next video around your interests? Most of you, probably not. Some of you, I don't know. Parasocial relationships have thankfully gained a bit of a bad reputation online. The idea of feeling close to someone's projection of themselves online. And without being around someone, you never truly gain an idea of who they are. There's a weird space, however, between this parasocialness and this audience expectation that I see a lot online. This idea that the people with a platform have to use their platform as a universal stage for what the audience deems is good. This isn't even about any particular topic or subject either, and it's crazy that I have to clarify that or be thrown into the wolves. I just really don't think there's a responsibility for a creator to be a beacon for hope and change. There's a responsibility to create and entertain. If they stop doing that,
Throw me to the curb.
an influencer likely isn't going to save your life, unless it's Hulk Hogan. An influencer likely isn't going to change the world. Most of the people who got attention were just people who uniquely got lucky in a sea of other people trying to get lucky. Internet fame overall seems completely removed from the days of prior fame. There's a level of relatability most feel to an online creator, seeing as how almost anyone with the right luck and skill could go from rags to riches, making it an appealing option for those seeking attention and those seeking to get their work seen, while also incorporating a level of audience participation never before seen. Not only can you interact with these creators, but you could also become one, or relate to where they started. Everyone has a favorite creator. A double-edged sword, however, where we find people cultivating the opposite of the audience they want, or growing out of their audience, feeling influenced by the pressure to create in a certain way, or be left to squander their shot at stardom. Something millions of other people are waiting to grab up. A generation obsessed with traditional celebrities raised a generation desperate to perform, and given the tools of the wider web, created a generation obsessed with stardom and online celebrities. And with nothing but perceivable gains past the curtain, we will all perform and perform until our bodies give out. Thank you for coming to my performance. Enjoy the rest of your shows.